Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Found in Interpretation podcast. Once again, I'm one of your co-hosts, Alain Breton, and I'm here with Brian. Brian, how you doing today?
I am feeling fantastic today. It's a beautiful day outside and I can't complain.
That's amazing. And we're here with Maria Scheibengraf. How you doing, Maria?
I'm very well, thank you. Hello from London. It is a bit warmer on this side of the world, but a lot more grey. So I do
All right.
complain.
So let's kick it. So, first of all, I'm going to present Maria. Maria is a certified translator and content writer with a background in IT and marketing, specializing in SEO. She's the operation manager at Crystal Translation Services, a woman owned business redefined translation services with a unique hybrid model. And she's the founder of TriTrap, a platform where translators, interpreters, and language professionals can anonymously report exploitative translation agencies.
It's a
That
mouthful.
is very interesting. So first, about TriTrab, how did that come to be? What was the essence of the foundation of TriTrab?
Well, I've been a translator myself, a linguist for many years. I started translating about 14 years ago, and I come from a country. My home country is Argentina, where unfortunately the landscape for translation professionals is it's not great. Basically, lots of translators end up working for translation agencies, like local translation agencies, that in turn serve larger LSPs, and they get paid peanuts. And I was one of those linguists getting paid peanuts. I had the luck and privilege to be able to move to a different country and make different types of connections and network with other people and access better opportunities. I did found a business with three partners. It's a very boutique business, and we always our main priority is always paying fair rates, and we charge our clients accordingly. But I found that I was getting very angry every time I heard a fellow colleague complain of their working conditions and how little they were getting paid, how sometimes they were not getting paid at all. Um, and it just made me really very, very angry. And I thought, well, I could just stay angry and do nothing, or try and think of a way where some form of fighting back could be achieved, and inspired a bit by some social movements in Argentina, where unfortunately there's a lot of unfairness across many areas. Something that always seemed to work was subjecting the wrongdoer to social pressure of some form. And I was like, right, we have to do something that will call out exploitative agencies and exploitative businesses, so that
And,
if
and
they don't.
protecting them as well, right? Because you said it was anonymous.
Yeah, exactly, because that's the other thing. I had lots of discussions with people about what could we do about this, and a lot of linguists mentioned, well, if I call these exploitative agencies out online on my LinkedIn profile, for example, um, I could be paying a very high price for it. There are businesses that blacklist linguists that they consider to be troublemakers of some sort. So, yeah, how could we do this anonymously? How could a linguist report a company anonymously, but also how can we vet those complaints so we know that they are legitimate? Excuse me, I'm a bit ill. So I came up with the idea of an online platform where there's a team of volunteers vetting every single complaint and going through the evidence submitted, and then the linguist is protected, and the company is called out publicly, but with the added benefit that the platform itself ranks among the first results on Google when you search for the company that has received a report. So my
So you're
thinking
using
was
your SEO
exactly.
knowledge.
Exactly. So my thinking was, if the company doesn't want to do right because they think that's not what they should be doing, what selfish motive could they have to do the right thing? Well, we need to put their reputation on the line, and the potential to make business and acquire new clients. So when any client is searching for that company online, and one of the first things that they see is a report site where they are being called out for not paying their freelancers, well, they might want to fix that so that they don't lose any more clients. And that's how TriTrap came to be.
Okay.
What do you think is the difference between the language industry and every other industry in terms of being exploitive of their workers? Do you think that people who are in the language industry are more prone to become victim?
I don't have enough knowledge of other industries to be able to give an informed opinion on this, but what I think might be the case, and this, like I said, this could be just my own personal appreciation of things.
We're a podcast. We're all about opinions.
Yeah, I think there's a system in place where you have the end client that hires a very large translation or language service provider, and that multilingual service provider then in turn outsources to smaller LSPs. And in the case of Argentina specifically, which is the market I have the most knowledge of, local translation agencies are a lot of the time third or fourth in that chain, in that outsourcing chain, and the linguist is the very last slab in that chain, and they get such a small percentage of what the original end client paid that is absolutely outrageous. It's not enough to pay the bills, and I have not witnessed the same dynamics in any other industry. I don't know why that is, but I do know that it's been normalized and naturalized in our industry, unfortunately, to the point where many agencies have made it a business to just be the middleman. So they are in the industry as a pure, fulfilling this role of exchanging services from one bigger agency to the other in the middle as an intermediary, not adding any value, simply just hiring freelancers and reselling with a markup. And I don't think that's the right way to approach things. And I think that if your profit as a business is based on exploitation when you're working in the translation industry, then maybe you're not in the translation business, you're in the exploitation business. And I don't agree with that personally. It bothers me.
No, I agree with you. And but I have a question about so TriTrab would get a complaint from the freelancer, like at the bottom of the totem pole. Does it escalate all the way up to the say the if it's a large multicultural or a multinational language service provider? Does it go all the way up there? Does it, or you're just announcing the person that the freelancer was hired by, like the local interpretation or translation company in
All
Argentina?
all translation agencies that pay little, regardless of where they sit on the chain, will have their own profile on the site with reports against them. It might be that a freelancer, some bigger agencies hire both. They hire freelancers for certain languages, language combinations, and they hire smaller LSPs for other language combinations. So
And everyone wants their cut.
yeah. So whoever the person, the linguist, and I'm saying linguist, but it could be a localization engineer, any person working in the language industry that has been treated unfairly will submit a complaint, will submit evidence of it in the form of emails, any communication. We vet the evidence. We blur out any personal information that could identify not just the person that's submitted the complaint, but also any project managers, for example, working at the company, because they're not at fault. Why should they be exposed or their name? So we blur out any identifiable information, and then once we're sure that the complaint is legitimate, it gets published, and the companies themselves can reply to the complaints. They can create a username and a password on the site, and give their version of events if they so wish. We had 2 or 3 instances where the linguists were reporting that they hadn't gotten paid for months, and they finally got paid thanks to one of the people at the company seeing the report on the site and chasing it up. So it's brought some good results, luckily.
Yeah, and I mean the reason why I bumped into your name is because you had just followed the same story that I had followed about the Blue Digital Group and their months and months of not paying freelancer after freelancer, and the amount of money was astronomical for some freelance interpreters. So that's where you and I kind of touched base on, and then we kind of diverted to this TriTrap thing, which is fascinating. And it's such a great platform. Like you said, you're using your skills in SEO to be able to get at the top of the Google search whenever someone searches for a company. It's amazing this the type of work that you're doing. So that's I mean that's one of the reasons why you're on the podcast. You're doing something different. You're doing something that's improving linguists' lives around the world. Like it's very noble. And yeah, so that's why I thought that this would be an awesome opportunity to talk to you about this. Now, in Canada, we have associations and orders and those types of things to be able to protect linguists and the public. Does the Association of Translators and Interpreters of Argentina have play a similar role, or should they play that type of role as well?
The thing is, when working relations surpass borders and they become international in nature, it's very difficult to establish what jurisdiction a certain conflict belongs to. And there isn't much the local associations in Argentina can do. There isn't much that many associations in many countries can do, unfortunately. There are many linguists who don't sign a contract, unfortunately, because they lack the the information to know what they should include in a contract, or they trust the agency, or they sign the agency's contract and there is no clause about late payments or lack of payment, or they even sign clauses where they say that they should compensate the company for up to 50,000 euros if they so it's really difficult to help a lot of people from a legal point of view, and that's why we approach this from a different angle. Let's do it through the social justice sort of way. I personally, I make my clients sign my contract, and my contract
Like
has
Crizo, right?
clause about late payments and interest fees, and it's governed by the jurisdiction of England, because I'm based in London. So I am protected if a client doesn't pay, but not everyone is in the same position, and I don't think those people deserve any less help or justice just because they weren't very well prepared when they entered that collaboration with the agency in question. And I think a lot of agencies take advantage of that.
Speaking of protection, how do you make sure that there's no retaliation on TriTrab? So if you put a major company on top of a Google list to say that this is a bad company, they could potentially sue you
Yeah,
for damages, right? So how do you
yeah.
make sure that you're protected against that?
Well, a lot of the money that was crowdfunded at the beginning of this effort went into paying a team of international data protection experts and libel lawyers and defamation. I don't understand much of that, but they crafted a
We're
very
linguists. We're not lawyers. We're linguists.
yeah, because it is my name on the line as well. TriTrap is set up as a company, as a non-profit organization, and I am the director of it. So I'm the only one on paper who has to respond in any of those cases. So I wanted obviously to protect myself because I can't afford to be taken to to court. And so these lawyers and data experts came up with a very clever set of terms and conditions. And the design of the website is in accordance to those terms, where you have to create a username and a password to be able to read the details of the complaints. You can read the titles and some other superficial information without logging in, but if you want to read the whole thing, you have to log in. To be able to create an account, you have to accept the terms and conditions. As a company, to be able to reply to a complaint or to even read the content of it, you have to create you have to accept the terms and conditions by creating an account. And when a company does that, when they create an account to be able to read the contents of etc., they waive the right to take us to court, which I think is really clever. And
Yes.
also the fact that a lot of the content is gated to people with accounts changes something legally in terms of whether that information is public or not. And I can't remember exactly how it works, but I am a lot more protected because of that.
Okay.
That doesn't mean that my name is not on the line anyway. It is, but it's something I always knew would be the case, and I'm happy with. But yeah, it's I would say quite bulletproof in terms of potential libel suits because of this amazing team.
So two questions that come to mind. First of all, has there been any attempt? And second, have you had any success stories in changing the behavior of certain companies?
No attempts have been made at we haven't been challenged by any companies that have received a report, which is
so
great.
You've got good lawyers. That's a good point.
Yeah, they're amazing. We have had other challenges, which I'm going to speak of in a bit, but not in that sense, luckily. And we've had a few success stories, mostly unpaid invoices that got paid.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Now, I'm going to ask this question. I already know the answer, but I'm going to ask it just for Adnan's sake because he can pump his chest in pride. But where is TriTrab located, and why is it located there?
Well, this team of lawyers told me that because it's an online effort and there's no physical office for it, we had to find a place to register the company, a location in the world, and that location, wherever we chose, would become the legal jurisdiction in case of any legal conflict. And the most favorable location in terms of libel laws was Quebec. So it is registered there.
Merci, yeah. And why? It is not at the address of Found an Interpretation podcast. I can tell you that.
No,
anyone watching this, don't send a cease and desist letter to this address.
I hear knocking at your door, Anna. I hear someone knocking at your door.
So can you explain why Quebec has more protections?
Apparently, if a conflict were to happen where a company, one of these translation agencies, wanted to take me to court for libel, I would have more chances of winning that lawsuit if it was governed by the laws of Quebec. I don't. That's all I know. That's where my legal knowledge ends.
Sounds like very wise wisdom and advice that you were given.
Because it's in French in North America, nobody understands it, and then
I got all
it's
these
all written in
American.
French. I cannot go to
To
court.
give you an example, I can't, I haven't fact checked this, but I was told that in
We never fact
Japan,
check anything. Don't worry.
in Japan, if someone takes you to court for libel, um, they are they're very likely to win, even if what you were saying about them was correct and you had evidence of it. Doesn't matter. They're gonna win just because of how the law
Regardless.
is there. Yeah.
Wow. But yeah, you had mentioned also that you were going to talk about some of the challenges that
Yeah.
because you haven't got any libels, but you said there was other things that were.
Yeah, so something that happens quite a lot is that the website goes down. In fact, it is down at the moment of recording this podcast.
Yeah, I was there
Um,
just before, and I was trying to look for some information. I was like, it
like,
is
yeah,
down. And then I
website under
found a post on
maintenance.
LinkedIn that dated from 2 years ago, where you explained some of the challenges. So I wanted
Yeah,
to ask that
so
actually.
basically, I have put a lot of money from my own pocket into this venture, not venture, but and uh,
Adventure.
yeah, adventure would be a better word for it. And maintaining the website is difficult because obviously we are collecting information. We
Mhm.
are collecting personal data from people. Even if we anonymize the information, we're still collecting it to be able to vet the person in question and make sure that it's not a made up profile or a made up name trying to harm a company's reputation for nothing. That information is collected and needs to be treated according to lots of different types of data protection regulations, etc. So the setup of the site in the back end is quite complex, and things break all the time. Um, and paying web developers and other professionals to keep things going is expensive. So sometimes things break, and there are no funds to pay the people to fix it. So that's a big challenge at the moment. Well, we have run a few crowdfunding rounds, and that has been helping loads to pay the people. At the moment, what I'm doing is I'm training as a website developer myself because
Wow, look at you.
it's cheaper and I think easier if I learn to do it myself than
Like
like,
many things in life.
yeah, you want it, yeah. So that's the main challenge. Just keeping things running smoothly when there are no funds for it, because this is a non-profit effort. So at the end of the day, we depend on donations, and if not donations of money, donations of skills and time and effort. So we've had some very generous people who have had a look at the site voluntarily and suggested things to improve and fixing things for free. But it's not a very reliable system. You're just like crossing fingers that nothing's going to break, and if it does break, you're crossing your fingers that you will have people to help for free, or the money to pay for the skills to do it. So
And
And I'm
when you
assuming
say
there's no way of finding out who breaks your website.
no, it's not that something breaks it. It's that the conflicting plugins, for example, in the backend, the plugin
Right.
updates to the latest version, and it comes conflicting with something else. So the
I see.
complaints page doesn't work. The form is not going through. Just technical stuff.
yeah, the websites are not static; they're dynamic, and protocols change, and browsers are update, and you have to do the Mac, the PC, the whatever. So when you talk about we, do you have a board at
No,
TriTrap?
it's just a team of volunteers, people who like to help. Just have signed up to help vet complaints and respond to emails. Like I said, sometimes fix the website if they know how to do it. Just team effort from volunteers.
Now, I'm assuming, going back to the big ladder of from the large language service provider to the middleman to another middleman maybe, and then to the freelancer, I'm assuming that hiring your company would probably be the equivalent for a client, but the end result is that the freelancer isn't getting exploited, like with Crizo.
Yeah. So
Am I
that's the
wrong
other
in?
thing that we've done. It's just we CRISO is an active effort to change things in the industry, by doing what's there's a phrase in English about preaching and doing as you preach, and so we do outsource to linguists, but set team of 2-3 linguists per language. We don't work in too many languages, and we pay what they quote. So we get a quote from them, and it is way above average market prices, and then we mark it up to the end client. We are very super specialized, so the clients that we work with are happy to pay higher because of our skills, and we are small by choice, because the moment you scale to a very big size as a translation agency, well, someone there is getting exploited, someone somewhere. So we choose to stay small and boutique because we, paying fair prices and getting paid fairly ourselves, because we're also linguists. We work the English into Spanish pair ourselves. We don't outsource that. So we're working
Do,
elbow
do
to
you
elbow.
think that some language combination are more prone, or that certain industries, for instance, do you get more complaints from translation services than, let's say, interpreting services? Because,
Yeah,
for
actually,
instance, in Canada, with the French English market, lots of government based work, especially in the interpretation service, since there's a shortage of interpreters, then we can basically say yes or no without much financial penalty if we say no to a contract, in order to avoid. And the word gets passed around a lot. So, would you say that the Spanish market is more prone to these kinds of
well,
things, or?
there's lots of complaints from Latin American Spanish linguists. There's lots of complaints from Indian languages as well.
Punjabi,
You mean from India?
Yeah, like it's just the Indian languages in general. Yeah, like
Punjabi, Urdu,
exactly.
Farsi. Yeah.
Um, then I do find most of the complaints are from translators versus interpreters. Um, and I don't know why that is. I don't know if it's because not many interpreters are aware of the platform, or because there's less exploitation. I've been an interpreter myself in the past. I didn't like it, but I did try it for a bit.
What's not to like? Okay,
I don't
okay.
like it. But I prefer dealing with text over dealing with people. It's just a
I'm
personal
exactly
preference.
the opposite. Exactly the opposite. I don't know why.
It's a personal preference. I'm not made
Exactly.
for it. But I did work as a medical interpreter for a couple of years in London. And the rates were exploitative. Yeah, we're talking.
Yeah.
Yeah, it
Well,
was
I find
very
that
much.
too. Like in community interpretation, court interpretation, a lot of those types of situations. Yeah, it's around the world. Like we have people from the United States on our podcast, and they talk about that. And in Canada, it's the same thing. Like in Ontario, where I live, the court interpreters don't get paid very well. So
Yeah.
yeah, no, it is a setting that where like yeah, it's very exploitative in a lot of ways, no matter
Mhm.
where you are in the world.
Yeah,
Yeah,
maybe it's just a matter of spreading the word to more interpreters, which we are doing now, I guess.
that's right. Yeah, so
Yeah,
yeah,
you're going
you're
to
the
reach lots of interpreters here.
yes, the word is gonna reach well in Canada too, because I don't know if there are that many people who know about your organization in Canada, or in North America, since you're based in um, London, but or do you have links to other places in the world to promote
I mean,
TriTrap?
because a lot of the a lot of my communication happens through LinkedIn, and I've got
Hmm.
a huge network, luckily, from people all around the world. It's being used all over. I think at the moment we've got, last time I checked, near to 3,000 registered users. But there are lots of people who don't sign up, but because they're still able to read the titles of the complaints. So
Oh, right.
traffic is more than the registered users.
So you get more
Um,
views than login, like registrations.
yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, the more people
So
can find out, the better.
let's say there someone posts a complaint on your website. Can you describe the process, or maybe even a real life story? You don't have to share the exact details, of course, because of the anonymous part, even if the company, if you don't want to. But can you explain really what happened in a single story so we can really understand how this works? Or if someone is being exploited right now, maybe they'll understand the process a lot better.
Well, the first thing that they do, like I said, they need to create an account, and then there's a section of the website that says submit a complaint, because there's a different section that's called read complaints, but then there's the submit a complaint section. When they click on there, there's a form, a very extensive form with about 25 to 30 questions that they need to, there are multiple choice questions, because this is the other thing, like one of the ways in which we are less likely to be taken to court is if we minimize the opportunities for the people submitting complaints to insult or swear at the company in question, and use offensive language and stuff. So we had to reduce the number of open text fields and just keep it as factual as possible. Have you worked with this company? Yes, I have. And I don't work anymore. Yes, I'm still on their database. No, I didn't accept the offer. So very closed options for each question. How much did they offer to pay? They can enter the value. Is that per word, per hour, it's a very comprehensive form that they just go through, answering lots and lots of questions. And then at the end, there's a space where they submit the evidence in the form of screenshot. For example, they can screenshot an email, but they must have blurred out all the personal information. If we find that there's any visible personal information, that doesn't get published. And we reach out to the person and we say you need to resubmit, and remember to blur out
Oh, so
this
you're
and
not
that.
going to do it for them.
No, because the moment we touch, between inverted commas, anything of what they've submitted, then there could be a legal case against me because I have interfered in the process. So I can't touch anything. They have to do it themselves, and they have to do it right. And we let them know if there's something why it hasn't been posted. Because of the amount of complaints, sometimes we just send a general email, and we say, right, if you're receiving this email, it's because you've submitted a complaint and we were not able to publish it because it violated our terms and conditions. Reach out if you've got any more questions, and then people will reply and say what was wrong with it, and then we can explain.
Now, have you seen
Yeah,
since you started TriTrap, have you seen an increase in complaints?
yeah.
Like a
Yes.
very like how long has TriTrap been around, and say like how
Couple of years.
exponential is it?
Sorry.
So like and how exponential is it, the amount of complaints that you get year over
No,
year?
the more users who sign up,
Yeah.
the more complaints we tend to see. But also sometimes, like what happened with Blue Digital Group, we started seeing a crazy number of complaints all at once and all about this group, and that's where I was like, whoa, there's something going on here. Like this company keeps coming up, and all of the complaints are saying the same thing. So sometimes there's an effort, like a coordinated effort, somewhere online where people say, you should all report this on TriTrap, and then we get a flux of complaints all at once, an influx. But there's no pattern. Sometimes it's just the more users we've got, the more frequent complaints we have to vet and publish, but there is no pattern. Sometimes a month
I,
we can receive 50 complaints in 1 month, and maybe 20 the next month. And
okay. My
Would you
my
say
hope
that
is that it's going to decrease because like people will know more about TriTrab and people will be more socially aware.
No, that would be a dream, designing a
Yes.
platform that will make itself redundant,
Hmm.
irrelevant.
Yes.
would you say that your platform not only helped but maybe changed the situation regarding Blue Digital Group,
No,
or no?
unfortunately, no. Unfortunately, I don't think they care enough. I think the effort on LinkedIn has surpassed anything on TriTrap by far, but that's a great thing.
Yes.
Everything complements everything.
Yeah, they didn't use a like they were organized, but they didn't use a registered association or organization to do it. It was just like freelance after freelancer
Exactly,
denouncing something that was wrong and that needed
exactly.
to be righted,
So we
like
just wanted
especially.
to. Unfortunately, lots of the complaints that came in for Blue Digital Group didn't meet the terms and conditions and could not be published. So
I see.
we have been chasing those linguists, like begging them to please resubmit, please do it again and do it right,
Hmm.
because the more complaints it receives, the better, obviously.
Was it just like, for instance, what you explained earlier about the anonymous part and
Yeah,
technical things like that, or something else?
it's mostly that, or they use very um, like we
Profane
ask them
language?
to name the complaint in the most objective way possible, and sometimes there's a lot of angry language there that we can't really publish, but it's mostly to do with the anonymization of data, that they've left an email address uncovered, or they've left a name, um, or the date and time of the email, or something that
So
we
the
just can't.
message to people sending complaints is do your homework. It's not enough to scream, shout, complain, and swear. You have to answer the email and you have to put the effort if you want to see some change. It is not enough to yell and scream. That's the
Yeah, we need
message
to
for people.
it has to be an organized effort to put pressure on these agencies. Yeah,
Yeah, and eventually it will become a louder and louder voice. Maybe not
hopefully.
to the point of screaming, but to the point of having that one big voice that will make someone react in a yeah for the better of everybody. Kind of
Hopefully.
like a union, right? Like just trying to
Yeah,
get
exactly.
everybody's
There is
collective
a
voices together.
if people want to help as well, there is a crowdfunding page on
Yeah, I
GoFundMe.
wanted
You
to
can
ask you
Google it.
about that. Yeah, what's it
Yeah, and
called? GoFundMe?
yeah, it's on GoFundMe. If they just Google TriTrap and GoFundMe, they'll find it. And we are accepting donations there, um, to pay for web maintenance mainly. That's the most expensive thing. So it's down at the moment, but my web developer, I spoke to him this morning, and apparently he's found the issue, which is progress. So it should be up and running again in a couple of days.
All right. By the time it gets into the link in the description of this podcast, I'm sure that the technical issues will have been resolved.
Yes,
Yeah,
fingers crossed.
yeah. This is not live for anyone who expects
Yeah,
differently.
yeah, yeah. No.
But yes, no, yeah. And do you have any suggestions for like new translators and interpreters and linguists who are coming into the market in terms of like being careful about being exploited the way that some of the people that have had to go to TriTrap have been?
Well, the thing is that I can never blame the linguist for getting exploited, because sometimes when you have to put a plate of food on the table to feed your child, and there's nothing out there, and an agency offers you peanuts, a lot of the time for the linguist, peanuts is better than nothing. And I
Hmm.
think that's like agencies are, taking advantage of that. They know that someone will say yes to those pennies that they offer. I can never blame the linguist, because I've been in that position myself where I had to buy food to eat, and sometimes that's all
Yes.
you've got and all you can find. But I would encourage them to, if they have to accept that sort of work, to try and not settle, and keep it as a temporary thing while they're looking for something better. To be very careful about what they sign. If they don't have a contract in place themselves, to be very careful about what they sign from the agency's side, to try and talk to other colleagues who have maybe worked with that company before, to run a quick check on TriTrap and see if the company is there and it's got, I don't know, 6, 7, 8 complaints. Well, maybe avoid. You might be in for a nasty surprise.
Hmm.
But
There's
yeah,
a
there's
few
not much.
places now that I want to Google in mind with your after this podcast. There's a few companies that I'd like to Google to see if they're on your website.
Yeah. Well, you'd be surprised. There's a few, unfortunately, very very famous. There's
Any
a
in
lot
Canada?
of You were asking about any sectors in particular. The audiovisual sector receives lots of complaints. So
Can you define
subtitling,
the audiovisual? A subtitle, okay.
yeah. So linguists working in subtitling or media localization or um, video games, all of that tends to receive many complaints.
So
So if
audiovisual is anything that's like a movie or a show or a
yeah,
video game, like that kind of industry.
yeah,
So, are you saying that a lot of the shows we watch as entertainment on, I'm not pointing any company, but Netflix, Amazon, Disney, and all those big names are basically, without perhaps even their knowledge, using work from people that are being exploited?
well, yeah. I mean, Blue Digital Group serves that kind of company as their main
That's right.
client.
And it reminds me, for instance, of cases where Apple phones, they get components from all over the world. And now, because of a lot of scandal, they really have to go down the chain in order to see if at any step, for instance, there is forced labor, child labor, or any other conditions that might not be up to their own standard. So, do you think that there's a way to put pressure on all of these big companies to become even more aware of this situation, or perhaps because they're not?
I don't know if they're not, but I think we're doing everything we can. I think social media is a very powerful um, way of raising awareness. And then I'm trying to cover the Google side of things with TriTrap, but the internet has, in a way, made it more democratic in a way for all of us to spread the word about things and speak up. So hopefully, if we make enough noise, it reaches the right people and we can exert some form of change. At least that's my
Well, I think that
ideal.
first of all, it has to reach mainstream media. I mean, if you
Yeah,
come to a podcast like here, and at some point in the future, because this podcast is going to stay forever online, hopefully, then at some point, if mainstream media catches it, then some people might talk about it, and then suddenly these companies will notice.
yeah.
So I
I'd
think
reach
that this
out
is
to a
how
few
sometimes these things
journalists.
happen.
I'd reach out to a few journalists that I know, freelance journalists that sometimes pick up stories, make an article, and then on occasion it gets picked up by mainstream media. And I've shared the Blue Digital scandal with them. So I do agree that that's the way. But these journalists are always on social media, on X Twitter, and things, just trying to find the next story. So the more we talk about it, the higher the chances they are that they will find it.
Absolutely. No, like I said earlier, like what you're doing is fantastic work, and I
Thank
applaud you for having a business that is ethical and for running a non-for-profit that is ethical and that is fighting for people's rights. I think that this is an amazing enterprise that you've done. So hats off to you. And Alain, any final, or Maria and Alain, any final comments before we end? Because we're kind of at the 45-minute mark, and that's usually where we end up, even though we want to keep
You're
talking
always
every
the one
time.
checking the time, Brian.
I
I just
am, I
want to
am.
keep on going and going and going.
just
Nobody wants to hear us for 45 minutes, man.
Just an invitation for people to connect with me on LinkedIn if they'd like to stay in touch. That's all from me.
All right. So thank you, Brian. Thank you, Maria, for coming. And Maria, I don't want to repeat exactly what Brian has said, but I will. A tremendous amount of effort. This takes a lot of time, dedication, courage, and also a big heart. To speak for other people, to take other people's pain on your shoulder and try to bring some positive change.
You're
And
gonna make me
that
cry.
is no, no, but it's true. It's true. I mean, not many people. A lot of people. We see a lot of things in the world, a lot of things that are going on in our industry. But sometimes we're just busy. We have our contracts. We have to work, and we're like, oh, they'll figure it out, or it's their problem, or we think, well, why have they decided to make that choice? It's their problem, and then we move on. Sometimes it's very human thing to think like that. And what you're doing, you're putting your money where your mouth is. You're
That's the
basically
phrase that I wanted to use earlier.
that's oh
That's it.
Walk the talk.
Walk the
yes,
talk. That's that one.
but it's
Thank you
true.
very
But
much.
the fact that you're putting all of this effort in order to bring some change, or at least raise and create awareness out there, this, I think, it's incredible. So everyone, like, share, subscribe, and really share. This is an important episode to share, because this will bring some change to thousands of language specialists out there. And we have to make sure that this message also reaches mainstream media, so these big companies can check down the road what is going on for everyone to have better working conditions. So thank you again, Brian, Maria, and we'll see each other again, everyone, for another episode of Found and Interpreting. I'll start that again. We'll see each other again. Okay, hold on. I'll cut this. We'll see each other again for another episode of Found Your Interpretation podcast. And on that, good night and good luck. Thanks.